Okay, so a video for a reference. I've stripped out all the wheel assembly, so camber arms, wishbone, ball joints, disc, caliper. Did a video on removing 2 bolts to remove the caliper. On removing the caliper, it gives you access to your disc to be removed. That should slide off. Sometimes if the handbrake shoes are sticking, because this has shoes inside, they can stick on the edge. A few bashes with a hammer will generally free them off. Obviously not if your handbrake's still on. And then this will just slide off. Underneath here you'll find attached all your shoes. I have already removed them in this case. It's only a case of removing the 2 retaining screws, which would be situated one there, one on the opposite side. Basically you put a flat-headed screwdriver on them, turn them half, and then they come out. They're on a spring. On removing them, you unhook the top springs and everything else pretty much just falls out. Not forgetting the handbrake auto adjuster which sits in there, which is basically a little bit goes between the 2 shoes with a wheel to wind it out on a thread. Obviously, in order to remove this, I've had to undo the top mounts. Top mounts would go, this top mount goes in there like so. This end of it connects to this front bush on the hub. Rear wishbone connects in there, and again this end goes to the rear bush at the top of the hub. This is your steering arm, track rod end, bush that needs replacing. That bolt there is for the suspension leg. That hole in the bottom there is where your ball joint goes in. Ball joint is on this, what I call a wishbone, which would bolt into them 2 holes. That goes in there roughly, your ball joint, which goes up into the bottom of the hub. Now with some lubricant, they've all come undone relatively easy. Tight, but with no issues. So that's situated at the bottom. This would go over the top like so. Obviously I removed my drive shaft in order to give me better access to that nut, because it has a split pin above it. With the drive shaft in, it was quite tricky to get to the split pin because of the position it had been left in. Obviously it might not be the case on everybody's. Also I had to remove from this little hole here my drop link to my anti-roll bar, which in my case is just poly. Obviously that's the top, that's the bottom. This little nut here that you can see in the middle, you put a spanner on that to hold it still while she's doing up both ends. Bottom goes in there, put rubber on either side, through that. The other end goes through that rubber either side. That's about everything to remove that side. I've only been taking my time. It's been harder getting to some of the nuts than it has been undoing them. As you can see, this is quite corroded, which is why I'm stripping it down to restore it. Any bolts that you don't have a tub for, best to return them to where they've come out. So my caliper bolts I've returned to my caliper to ensure I don't lose them. Could be a few months before they're refitted. Next I'm removing my exhaust from the cap to the back.